the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-0141. That's 800-583-0141. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Pakistan remains inundated by devastating floods.
Officials say nearly 300,000 people have been evacuated in the past 48 hours from flood-hit areas of Pakistan's eastern Punjab province, bringing the total number of displaced people since last month to 1.3 million. Authorities were struggling to divert overflowing rivers onto farmlands to protect major cities as part of one of the largest rescue and relief operations in Punjab's history. A new flood alert by India was shared with Pakistan through diplomatic channels early on Wednesday. It was the second such alert in 24 hours, following heavy rains and water releases from dams in India. I'm Karen Shamas.
Portuguese officials focused on establishing the causes of the crash of a Lisbon streetcar popular with tourists that killed 16 people and injured some 21, 5 of them seriously. That downtown streetcar is known as Elevador da Gloria. Breaking news at townhall.com. Governor Ron DeSantis says Florida deserves another congressional seat.
The Republican governor blames the Census Bureau for shortchanging Florida based on the 2020 census number. The nation's third most populous state gained only one additional seat for a total of 28 in the House of Representatives. DeSantis argues that an undercount of almost 3.5% missed around 761,000 residents. The once-a-decade census figures are used to divvy up congressional seats among the 50 states in a process known as apportionment. Rich Thomason, Washington.
Florida plans to become the first state to eliminate vaccine mandates. State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo describes current vaccine requirements as an immoral intrusion on rights. However, Dr. Rana Alyssa, chair of the Florida chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, says removing vaccines puts students and school staff at greater risk. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me and I'll set you free.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Come together right now over me.
And welcome, Mr. Constitution, Douglas V. Gibbs. I guess I've been wondering what to call this show. I think Thursday Live with Mr. Constitution might be the way to go. Thursday Live. This is a live episode. And then you can watch them later. And you know, I was having issues with my website over the last couple of days because we're moving over to a new platform. I should be able to post by now, hopefully. So I didn't warn everybody about this upcoming episode, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out the link to the video once it's available on Rumble. But you get to, if you're listening online through ZakiRadio.com, or if you're one of the various media outlets, X or Rumble or whatever, or if you're listening on KPGF or other affiliate stations, well, welcome to the program. Glad you're here live with me. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. I'm an educator, author, got a dozen books out there. Check them out. Go to Amazon, Douglas V. Gibbs, all about the Constitution, history, something like that. Purchase the books. Visit DouglasVGibbs.com, DouglasVGibbs.com. I write just about daily. Missed the last couple days because of the issues with the website, but we're going to get that resolved. I might even just post a bunch of articles all at once to catch up. We'll see. And if you're at DouglasVGibbs.com, you want to help fund the program, help pay for all of the efforts that we do here at the Mr. Constitution Enterprises group. At the bottom of the main page, DouglasVGibbs.com, hit a donation link and send us some funds because we have advertisers, but we don't have enough advertising dollars. That's where you come in. Listeners, be a part of the movement, help support the movement. And another way you could do it is at DouglasVGibbs.com. In the link bar, hit the join link in the link bar, and that's a $9 a month member, and we can definitely help with that. Now, here's what I want to talk about, my friends, fellow Americans, fellow constitutionalists, we're watching something that's interesting going on. We're witnessing a meltdown of historic proportions. The Democratic Party has always been what we're finding out they are, but they were good at hiding it. So this is not, I don't care what people say, oh, well, this isn't your grandfather's Democratic Party. Yes, it is. They were just better able hiding who they were back then. They claimed they were self-anointed stewards of progress and compassion and benevolent elitism. But now the wizard behind the curtain has been exposed. They've been exposed for who and what they really are, and what they have been all along. And in response, right now, they're flailing like a fish on the deck of the USS Reality. Their power, once fortified by media complicity and bureaucratic entrenchment, is slipping through their fingers like sand in a broken hourglass. And it's ugly. It's bad. But don't worry, they've got a brilliant strategy to stop the bleeding. Double down, triple down, quadruple down on the very ideological poison that cost them the 2024 election. Now, they've become addicted to losing, it seems. They're so obsessed with Donald J. Trump, they can't shake their derangement syndrome. They hate his policy. They hate the prosperity he's orchestrating. They're spitting in the faces of the American people, not because there's anything wrong with his policies or the prosperity or the fact that the people voted for Trump or that the fact that he's the most constitutional president we've had since John Tyler, right before the war between the states. It's all because they hate Trump and anything and everything he does. And they claim to be constitutional giants. They know that he's violent. No, like I said, he's the most constitutional president we've had in over 150 years. And like Trump has told us, he could find the cure for cancer and they would accuse him of putting oncologists out of work. Their hatred for him has metastasized into a political psychosis that goes beyond anything we've seen before. They chant his name more than his supporters do. They see him in their cereal bowls, hear him in their dreams, or maybe I should say nightmares, and blame him for everything from inflation to the weather. Michael Savage comes to mind. Remember Michael Savage? He had a book by this title. The response by the Democrats against Trump has been irrational and pathological. And so, like Michael Savage, here's what we're realizing. Liberal progressivism is truly a mental disorder. But it is a mental disorder. But here's the thing. It's not just happening because they're crazy. It's not just happening because they've gone mental. This is an orchestrated, coordinated ideology and attack on America. And so while they're screaming into the void because they've been exposed, we see them for who they really are. The American people are quietly reclaiming their country. The tide is turning. The reckoning is here. The earth is shaking in Washington, D.C., worse than it's feared it may someday do on the West Coast with a big one. The tectonic plates of the legal world are shifting. And in the aftermath of the great legal and political earthquake, President Trump's Department of Justice, under the fearless leadership of Attorney General Pam Bondi, is finally doing what conservative Republicans and Tea Party folks have been begging for years, cleaning house. Dozens of entrenched leftist career prosecutors are being shown the door. And these aren't just bureaucrats. They are ideological foot soldiers of the Democratic Party, weaponized to wage lawfare against Trump from the moment he descended that golden escalator. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to explain this. I'm going to go through all of this. Don't go anywhere.
This is Peter from Nevada Real Estate Radio. I talk about the subjects that help you as a home buyer, seller, or investor. Some people might just focus on the negative things, so guess where they're going? We do it differently. We focus on the positive aspects of today's real estate opportunities. You might have to navigate through some murky waters, but we're here to help you achieve success. The Nevada Real Estate Radio, Thursdays, 3 p.m. on 93.7 FM. Nevada Real Estate Radio.
Hi, this is Eddie Floyd. Let me tell you about my favorite non-profit public charity, Wainema Wild Horse Sanctuary, located on the Forsyth Ranch in Hallelujah Junction area. And please go to www.wainemaranch.com. That's WYNEMA ranch.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to the program, Mr. Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution, DouglasVGibbs.com, DouglasVGibbs.com. And I was just talking about how we're watching history. And remember, when it comes to the Democratic Party, these are the same operatives whose political gymnastics twisted the justice system into a political cudgel. They weren't investigating crimes. They were manufacturing narratives. They were the architects of the endless witch hunts, the midnight subpoenas, the media leaks designed to smear and sabotage. And now they're on their way out, fired, finished. And it's not because Trump is going after his political enemy like they're claiming. It's because the law is catching up to them. And the Constitution is being put back for, the numbers in the military are rising. People are proud to be a part of this. I served in the United States Navy under President Reagan. He was my commander-in-chief. I was proud to be a part of that military and recognize legally these things that are going on. Once again, this is not about going after political enemies. This is about the law. This is about the truth. And Pam Bondi has not been flinching. She recognizes who they are and who they were. The people being fired right there in the DOJ. Members of Special Counsel Jack Smith's politically motivated crusade. She took a scalpel to the cancer that was a taxpayer-funded vendetta masquerading as justice, cutting out surgically the several prosecutors tied to Smith's 2024 investigations. Their partisan games have been exposed for what they were, a desperate attempt to derail the one man who dared to challenge the establishment and win twice. The Democrats are screaming, see, he's going after his political opposition like an authoritarian dictator. This is not revenge. This is restoration. The American people deserve a justice system that serves the law, not the progressive left. And under Trump, that's exactly what they're getting. It's easy to see that this has all the Democrats chewing their fingernails down to the knuckle. Trump is dismantling piece by piece their ability to squeak back into power. He's cutting them off from their backroom deals. He's ending their ballot harvesting. He's firing Their bureaucratic manipulation. This is what Thomas Jefferson did. Thomas Jefferson, Donald Trump is the modern day Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson got into office. He got rid of the spending that had been under John Adams because he considered it corrupt and unnecessary. He fired half of the bureaucracy, the Federalist Party half, the Hamiltonian big government half. He got both houses. He reduced the deficit. In fact, the national debt went down 7 of his 8 years in office. The 1 year it didn't go down is because of the Barbary Pirate War. And the machinery that today's Democrats have relied on for years to tile the playing field in their favor is rusting and falling apart, just like the Hamiltonians did under Jefferson. And it's all falling apart with the help of Trump, and they know it. Trump's second term in office as president of the United States is not just some amazing political comeback. It's a full-blown counteroffensive. The left's institutional strongholds are being exposed and gutted. From the DOJ to the intelligence community, the rot is being scraped out. It has the Democrats in a panic because without those levers of influence, the Democrats are left with nothing but slogans, identity politics, and their pathological obsession with Donald J. Trump. They are panicking because the old, dirty, deceptive, diabolical tricks that have been used and reused by the Democrats and their Hamiltonian ancestors are not only no longer working, Trump is removing them from the donkey saddlebags. The fear-mongering, the indictments, the media echo chamber, it's all backfiring. Donald J. Trump and the American people have seen through it. And now, with their grip on power slipping, the Democrats are doubling down on the very tactics that lost them the trust of the country. It's political insanity repeating the same failed strategies and expecting a different result. The tide isn't just turning. It's washing away the sandcastles they built on lies, lawfare, and legacy media spin. Donald Trump is not just surviving their attacks. He's not just making sure that he gets through it. He's turning it all around. And he's winning in the process. He's orchestrating the political narrative and their responses. He's turned the Democrats' own playbook against them. He's cherry-picking their tactics, and he's injecting them with issues they've never dared touch. Border security, crime in the cities, energy independence, parental rights, protecting women's rights by tackling the trans threat against them. These are not just policy points, they're pressure points, and Trump knows exactly where to press and how to make the Democrats react exactly the way he wants them to. That's where the brilliance is. It's in the bait. It lies in the bait. Remember when he tweeted about the NFL players and they're kneeling during the national anthem, and he called them a bunch of SOBs, and I was, hey, come on, Trump, that's a little harsh. And his tweet wasn't about what he said or about how harsh it was. It was to get the reaction. It was bait. The left doubled down on their hatred of the United States, their hatred of the national anthem. He floats a position, one that resonates with the forgotten foundations of Americans, and particularly those in the middle class, the working American, the parent who's tired of being sidelined and lied to. And the Democrats, in their reflexive rage, spring in the opposite direction. They don't just oppose Trump, they oppose common sense. They oppose the very values that resonates with the average American, and some of which they once pretended to champion. And while the Democrats are busy playing identity politics and defending the indefensible, which already has them off balance, Trump has been hammering away in another one of their golden calves by quietly setting charges beneath their electoral foundation, gerrymandering. He's flipping the script. In Texas, Republicans are redrawing maps in mid-decade, reclaiming ground being distorted, long distorted by Democrat cartography. But the real detonation, the one that has the left really scrambling, the one I can't wait, because it is going to shift so much, Trump's census bombshell. According to Rasmussen polling, a majority of voters support Trump's push to exclude illegal aliens from the census count. That's not just a policy tweak, it's a seismic shift. The 2020 census miscounts disproportionately shortchanged red states like Florida and Texas, costing them congressional seats and billions in federal funding. Meanwhile, blue states like New York, Minnesota, and California held on to representation they shouldn't have had. Trump's plan? A constitutionally grounded recalibration. Article 1, Section 2, and the 14th Amendment in the Constitution, that document that begins, "We the people, the supreme law of the land," calls for counting the whole number of persons, excluding Indians not taxed. In other words, Indians who reside in the United States but are subject to a non-American power, their tribes. Trump's team has recognized that persons who are not here legally, or are here not legally, should I say, fall into that same category. They may be inside the borders of the United States, but they are not citizens or even legal permanent residents. Therefore, they are subject to a foreign power like Indians not taxed, and therefore must not be counted toward the number that affects apportionment for the House of Representatives. If implemented, it could swing congressional apportionment in favor of Republicans across about 14 states. And the ripple effect doesn't stop there. The Electoral College votes are tied to congressional representation. More seats in red states means more electors. That's not just a win, it's a strategic rebalancing of national power. The left knows it, and they're terrified. And if Trump succeeds, their ability to rig the rules and tilt the field evaporates. And this isn't just reform, it's a realignment with the Constitution. It's a realignment with the Constitution calculated and backed by founding principles of America, the founding fathers, and the American people. The legal hypocrisy is also beginning to scream loudly. The Democrats have been telling us that nobody is above the law. They've been screaming accountability from their crumbling ivory towers. Their own machinery is hemorrhaging credibility. Act Blue, once hailed as the digital juggernaut of grassroots fundraising, is now under federal scrutiny for what investigators are calling a magic mortgage laundering scheme. According to reports, over $200 million may have been funneled through phantom real estate transactions, shell title companies, and unverifiable donor data. It's not just shady, it's systemic, and it's unraveling fast. And that's just the appetizer. The main course is the spectacular implosion of Letitia James and her civil fraud crusade against Donald Trump. In February 2024, Judge Ingrid handed down a jaw-dropping $355 million penalty. That's more than $500 million after interest and fees, accusing Trump of inflating asset values. But the New York Appeals Court saw through the charade and recognized the violation of the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. In a 323-page ruling, they threw out the penalty, entirely citing it to be a blatant violation of the Constitution's clause for excessive fines. Letitia James' crusade was not justice, it was political theater. James campaigned on targeting Trump. She weaponized consumer protection statutes in unprecedented ways and tried to bankrupt a former president over valuation disputes that harmed no one. And in fact, the bank said they would loan to him again. The appeals court didn't just slap her down. They exposed the entire case as legally baseless and grossly punitive. And now the trajectory points towards exoneration. Trump's legal team is poised to take the fight to New York's highest court and win. We'll be back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Charbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Charbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Charbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Charbecue Reno.
The Delta and Bonanza saloons in Virginia City are simply elegant. Imagine ascending the grand staircase and being surrounded by the Victorian elegance and grandeur of the historic banquet rooms. Original crystal chandeliers, mahogany bars, and oak dance floors highlight the eloquently appointed spaces. A truly romantic and unique setting for your wedding, banquets, or holiday parties. Detailed ceremony and menu planning ensures your special event is a memorable occasion. With just one call to Jesse at 775-847-0789, all of your arrangements will be handled by their experienced staff with your every expectation in mind, including cakes, flowers, photography, videography, music, and party amenities. Complete ceremony and reception packages are available, as well as their famous themed weddings. Since 1865, the Delta and Bonanza Saloons guests have come from every state in the Union. Now it's your turn. No event is too large or too small. Let the Delta and Bonanza Saloons plan your next incredible event. Call Jesse at 775-847-0789.
And what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
And welcome back, Mr. Constitution, Douglas V. Gibbs, douglasvgibbs.com, douglasvgibbs.com. If you have a question, you want to email me, constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com, constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com. We do have a douglasvgibbs.com email we're working on. We're not quite there yet. Constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com will do the job for now. And what we've been talking about, what we're watching, this everything falling apart, the American people see what's going on. They see it for what it is: lawfare, election interference, abuse of power. And Trump's legal victory, when it came to the violation of the Eighth Amendment, Letitia James, all that, was more than just that. It was more than just merely a legal victory. It's a vindication of constitutional order. The left's weaponization of justice is being dismantled brick by brick, and the wreckage is theirs to own. And then there's that 34 felony convictions by the New York State Court, 32 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. The charges stem from reimbursements made to Michael Cohen for $130,000 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels prior to the 2016 election. Not because Trump had done something wrong, because he didn't need the left using her to play these games. And it's not illegal to pay hush money. Prosecutors argued that Trump disguised those payments as legal expenses to conceal that they were actually campaign finance violations. And why 34 counts? Well, there's 34 felonies, though, Doug. Yeah, because it was 34 entries. Technically, it should have been one count regarding 34 entries. This was an effort by the Democratic Party Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, who took office in January 2022, indicating his goal was to take down Trump. So they took a local case, they twisted it to intersect with federal political dynamics. They prosecuted bookkeeping discrepancies that would not have been chased after otherwise, but did so because of their hatred of Trump, who has become a high-profile Republican figure. They elevated falsifying business records, which is typically a misdemeanor, to a felony, using an argument that it was used to conceal another crime that they never revealed. They never gave us any details of what that other crime was, other than to say it was connected to campaign finance violations. Oh, okay, well, because you said so. But what was the crime specifically? Where is it? It was selective enforcement aimed at political damage with an unconditional discharge with no prison time or probation. It was all for the purpose of making Trump be labeled as a convicted felon. That's all it was about. They said, see, you don't want to elect a felon to be president. And they hammered on it, right? Meanwhile, another lawfare case, which has an uncertain future, the Georgia election racketeering case, which is also a false accusation. But it's up in the air because the disqualification for legal reasons of District Attorney Fani Willis. Think about that. Criminals trying to paint Trump as a criminal with false allegations and a pretzel twist of the legal system. And while the media hyperventilates over every Trump tweet and everything he says, everything he does, the American people are quietly backing his immigration crackdown. Despite the predictable pearl-clutching from legacy outlets, recent polls show that 56% of Americans support expanding the border wall, and majorities of Republicans approve of increased ICE raids, local law enforcement cooperation, and federal deportation efforts. Even independents, allegedly the elusive middle, are shifting toward favoring enforcement over endless amnesty debates. And Trump's second-term immigration push has been unapologetically bold, invoking the Insurrection Act, which the left is saying, oh, you can't use that. Well, first, you can only use it during war. That law in 1798 was passed and signed and put into play and used during the John Adams presidency. After the Revolutionary War, before the War of 1812, try another one. Now they're saying, well, it doesn't apply to gang members. No, it applied to people who were in the United States as invaders in undermining our system. And what it does, if you use the Insurrection Act and mobilize military support, it expands expedited removals. It makes it quicker. You don't have to sit there and play games. And it ends the unconstitutional sanctuary laws. The message is clear. The era of catch and release is over. And while critics cry foul, the numbers don't lie. Over 500,000 deportations projected for 2025, with ICE raids now reaching the deepest and darkest places that nobody else was willing to go. The left calls it cruel. Voters call it overdue. And then there's the Democrats' immigration mascot. The Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Once paraded as a victim of Trump's inhumanity, Abrego Garcia is now back in ICE custody, facing deportation to Uganda after being released from jail on human smuggling charges. The irony? He's not Ugandan. But thanks to a third-party deportation agreement, Uganda may soon be his new home. Democrats are in full panic. Senator Chris Van Hollen flew to El Salvador to plead for Abrego's return earlier this year, only to watch him get reapprehended and processed for removal. His legal team is suing, claiming coercion and constitutional violations. Meanwhile, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem isn't mincing words. Quote, "We will not stop fighting till the Salvadorian man faces justice and is out of our country," unquote. Of course, CBS got in trouble now for playing games of when it came to when she was on their programming, leaving out certain words, because this is what they do. But nonetheless, people are watching. People know what they're up to. People know the games that the left is playing. The optics are devastating. The left's poster child, getting back to Abrego Garcia, for immigration reform is now a symbol of Trump's unrelenting enforcement machine. And as courts weigh his fate, Democrats are left popping mental corks, watching their narrative collapse under the weight of reality. Raw panic is now what's happening over the latest. So this is the story that really has me enthused, because it means that the wheels are turning on going after the criminals within. The FBI raid on John Bolton's home and office. The hawkish former national security advisor turned anti-Trump media darling was more than just raided. It was more than a headline. It was a detonation. Federal agents swept through his Bethesda residence and his D.C. office, hauling out boxes linked to allegations, mishandling classified documents, and perhaps more. And they weren't fishing around looking for stuff and going through lingerie drawers like they did in Melania's closet with the Mar-a-Lago raid. No, this was detailed, knew what they were looking for, precise. And as it was happening, we're watching the left's narrative. We're watching it begin to fracture. Bolton is not some fringe figure in a paperwork snafu. This is one of their own, a man who'd spent the last 5 years lambasting Trump, publishing tell-all memoirs, and cozying up to the Beltway press. And now he's under federal investigation. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a subpoena. Then another real tremor came with what followed. Tulsi Gabbard, former Democratic Party congresswoman, former presidential candidate even for the Democrats, turned whistleblower in chief, began connecting the dots. She brought out the DOJ memos, the FBI leads, the internal communications that suggest a coordinated effort to kneecap Trump from within. A grand conspiracy, and it's all connected. The pieces are falling into place. A criminal conspiracy, not just to smear Trump, but to obstruct the presidency, sabotage his return, establish the Democrats as the one party in rule. And the Democrats, they're sweating bullets. Because if Bolton, once their useful critic, is now a liability, the whole scaffolding of their anti-Trump lawfare is beginning to wobble. The raid wasn't just about classified documents. It was about exposure. It was about pulling back the curtain on the cabal that weaponized intelligence, law enforcement, and media to protect their own power. The panic is real. The conspiracy is unraveling. And the American people are watching. Now, forget the talking points. Forget the spin. For everyday Americans, the truth is staring them in the face every time they fill up their tank. Every time they check out at their grocery store. The Democrats can cry affordability crisis all they want, but the numbers and the receipts tell a different story. Under Biden, inflation didn't just rise, it exploded. From early 2021 through mid-2023, prices surged more than 20%, peaking at a staggering 9.1% in June 2022, the highest rate since the Reagan era. And it wasn't until July 2024 that inflation finally dipped below 3%, 2.1% being what the Federal Reserve calls normal. After 2 years of economic whiplash and wallet erosion, finally it's dipped below 3%. Now compare that to Trump's second term. Inflation has not only cooled, it's undercut the expectations of so-called experts. In March and April, it was at zero for the month. And the overall number, 2.2%. In May 2025, inflation dropped to its lowest level since March 2021. The impact? Tangible. The price of eggs, which has soared to $8.17 per dozen in March due to Biden's lingering policies, supply shocks, and idiotic response to the alleged bird flu, has plummeted to just $2.08. Gasoline, once a painful $5 plus per gallon under Biden, now averages $3.21 nationally. That's not policy theory, it's economic reality. And then there's the tariff train, Trump's aggressive trade stance, long mocked by the globalist elite because it's the globalist elite communism that it hurts the most. And it's now being vindicated in the eyes of Americans. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the CBO, who normally leans so far left, is probably even bigger than they're saying. If his current tariff structure remains in place, it will slash the national deficit by a jaw-dropping $4 trillion by 2035. That's not a rounding error. That's a fiscal revolution. And of course, the left, can't let that stand. Activist judges are already trying to derail Trump's tariff agenda. It's already, now he's been told he has to stop his tariffs. He's not. They're trying to kneecap his economic momentum. They know what's coming, a populist resurgence fueled not by ideology, but by results. And the Democrats can argue all they want, but Americans aren't buying it, literally. They're watching prices fall. Inflation's cool. Their paychecks stretch further. And they know exactly who to thank, Donald J. Trump. And the numbers don't lie, and the Democrats' attempts to spin it is not working anymore. Voter registration data from across the country shows a clear trend. Americans are walking away from the Democratic Party in droves. 2025 alone, the Democrats lost over 300,000 registered voters. That's not just a blip, that's a hemorrhage. According to NBC News, the party share of registered voters has declined every year since 2000, with the most dramatic drop occurring in the last 12 months. Meanwhile, the GOP is climbing. Republicans have added millions of new voters since 2020, fueled by grassroots momentum, economic clarity, and a renewed commitment to constitutional principles. Independents are surging too, breaking for Trump. The Democratic brand is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, woke, weak, and wildly out of touch. Let's take a break. I will wrap it up after this.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
Barbecue, the Butcher's Kitchen, would like to thank every customer for your loyalty and continued support through these challenging times. Call for takeout and delivery of rib tips, brisket, ahi, tuna, roasted veggies, and much more. Barbecue's open from 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and delivers hot food safe and healthy. Call 499-5855 for details. 499-5855 Barbecue, as featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives. Get real. Get into Barbecue Reno.
Meet Ed, movie buff, animal lover, safe driver.
5 years of driving an ambulance teaches you a thing or two. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. When I see a car trying to rush past a turning bus, I get concerned. You see, when big vehicles turn right, they have to swing wide to make the turn. And that's a lesson you don't want to learn the hard way. When trucks and buses turn, let's you and I wait.
It's our roads. It's our safety. Visit www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
And welcome back, Douglas V. Gibbs. This is Thursday Live. This show is also going to be on all kinds of platforms. And so if you missed it or you caught it late or whatever, I will put on douglasvgibbs.com the link to the Rumble page that this show will be on. Now, back to the show. Before we took our break, we're talking about how the Democrats are bleeding voters. And the people that are leaving the Democratic Party, they're not just leaving the Democratic Party and sitting home. And they're not just registering Republican. They're demanding action. A recent Rasmussen poll shows that 62% of likely voters support Trump's call to drain the swamp, including nearly half of Democrats. That goes way beyond bipartisan. It is a political earthquake. Americans are tired of bureaucratic rot, judicial activism, being lied to, and the existence of an elitist permanent political class. They want Trump to go further, faster, and deeper into dismantling the machinery of corruption. And this isn't just a shift in numbers. It's a shift in consciousness. The American people are waking up, registering red, and demanding a reckoning. And the Democrats are watching their base evaporate, one voter, one poll, one principal stand at a time. And the Democrat Party hemorrhage, as they hemorrhage voters, they're also bleeding cash. The money's drying up. And they're turning to darker, desperate sources. Enter the 1630 Fund, a shadowy nonprofit described by Politico as a left-leaning secret money group. The organization, backed by foreign billionaires, has quietly funneled hundreds of millions of dollars in progressive causes, Democratic super PACs, and ballot initiatives designed to tilt the playing field. But the real scandal, the money trail leads straight to a covert propaganda machine, the Chorus Creator Incubator Program, funded by the 1630 Group, or the fund, pays social media influencers, get this, up to $8,000 per month to push progressive messaging. Gen Z TikTok stars, YouTubers, meme makers, they're being paid to flood the digital landscape with leftist talking points. And the kicker, contracts reportedly barred these influencers from disclosing they're being paid at all. It's not just manipulation, it's deception, it's institutionalized. It's like these protesters are getting paid. Same junk. It's not grassroots. The program's funding, over $100 million, was then laundered through the 1630 Fund, which acts as a fiscal sponsor for Chorus while shielding the true source of the cash. And according to Watchdog reports, much of this money originated from foreign donors exploiting legal loopholes to influence U.S. elections. Federal law prohibits foreign contributions to candidates and PACs, though not to state-level ballot initiatives and nonprofit messaging campaigns. And the Democrats, they've embraced this workaround with open arms. So this foreign election interference, dressed up in progressive branding and cloaked in nonprofit legality, it's a betrayal of America's sovereignty. It's being exposed one influencer contract, one donor ledger, one whistleblower at a time. And as the walls close in, Democrats aren't just facing scrutiny. They're being haunted for what they did. Financial sins of the past, foreign influence, the institutional rot. It's all coming to light, and they're panicking. The panic is palpable. How about Afghanistan? According to testimony before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Chairman Mark Milley, and CENTCOM Commander Frank McKenzie repeatedly ran cover for the Taliban during the 2021 disastrous withdrawal. They claimed under oath that the Taliban had honored the Doha Agreement by not attacking U.S. and NATO forces, but the GOP-led committee's final report tells a different story. Taliban attacks continued throughout the withdrawal, violating every provision of the agreement except the one they were falsely credited with upholding. This wasn't just incompetence, it was deception. Milley and McKenzie defended the Taliban's behavior during the evacuation, even as American troops and Afghan allies were under fire. 13 U.S. service members were killed at Abbey Gate. Hundreds of Afghans died, and the Biden administration's top brass, they chose optics over truth. The cover-up is unraveling, and the consequences are just beginning. But the rot runs deeper. General Michael Flynn has now raised the alarm on what he calls a seamless operation of election manipulation in 2020, funded by billions of dollars from George Soros, laundered through the network of NGOs, for-profits, and government agencies like USAID and the State Department. According to Flynn, the structure was engineered to disguise foreign funds as domestic, creating the illusion of legitimacy while shielding the true source of influence. The entire mechanism, he says, was designed to obscure accountability and subvert the republic. This isn't just corruption, it's subversion. It's foreign election interference wrapped in progressive branding and protected by bureaucratic camouflage. And now, thanks to whistleblowers, investigative journalists, and a resurgent conservative movement, the truth is clawing its way to the surface. The Democrats are panicking because the sins they buried are being unearthed. The conspiracy against Trump, the grand conspiracy, the betrayal in Afghanistan, the manipulation of the 2020 election, it's all coming into view. And the American people, they're watching, they're remembering, and they're ready to hold the architects of this chaos accountable. And as the tide turns, another pillar of the left's ideological scaffolding is beginning to crumble. The so-called, the Green New Scam. The sprawling bureaucratic fantasy of wind turbines and solar subsidies has taken a direct hit. Under President Trump's renewed leadership, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced the rescission of $679 million of federal spending for offshore wind projects across the country. The largest casualty, California's Humboldt Bay offshore wind project, which was slated to receive $427 million in taxpayer dollars. This project, a flagship of California's mindless renewable ambitions, was designed to support the state's goal of generating 25 gigawatts of offshore wind power by 2045. But instead of delivering clean energy, it became a symbol of wasteful spending, regulatory overreach, and environmentalist hubris. Duffy's statement was unequivocal. Wasteful wind projects are using resources that could otherwise go towards revitalizing America's maritime industry. The administration's pivot is clear. Real infrastructure over ideological fantasy, maritime strength over climate theatrics. This move doesn't just claw back funds, it sends a message. And the federal government will no longer bankroll speculative energy schemes that offer little return and obscure accountability. And be honest with you, it's unconstitutional for them to be putting their money into that anyway. The wind industry, being shielded by progressive dogma and globalist funding, unconstitutionally being accomplished is now facing the cold wind of fiscal reality. And the panic, it's spreading. Clean energy advocates are decrying the decision, warning of job losses and rising energy costs. But the deeper truth is this: the American people were never given a transparent accounting of these projects. Billions were funneled into initiatives that served political optics more than practical outcomes. The left's environmental narrative, once cloaked in moral urgency, is now exposed as a financial sinkhole, a bureaucratic labyrinth, and a strategic vulnerability. With each rescinded dollar, the illusion fades. And while Democrats clutch their pearls and cry authoritarianism, Trump is rolling out a blueprint for urban revival, and it's working. Washington, D.C., it's the pilot. It is safer, lower murder rates. The public is starting to ask why the Democrats didn't do this themselves, and he's talking about now 20 other cities. And here's a ticker. Trump's strategy is constitutionally bulletproof. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution guarantees to every state a Republican form of government and protection against invasion and domestic violence. Yes, the federal intervention in domestic unrest requires state consent, but Trump isn't framing it as a crime sweep. We're saving the republic, and he's calling it immigration enforcement. And under federal law, it's his prerogative. And as per Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, the federal government does not need state approval to operate in a state for the purpose of executing federal law and guaranteeing it's a Republican form of government. The genius lies in the dual impact. By targeting sanctuary cities where criminal illegal aliens roam free, Trump is restoring order under the banner of national security and executing immigration law. And as crime drops, every Democratic voter is starting to notice. And the leftist media spin that they're not listening to that. They're watching their neighborhoods transform. Philadelphia's homicide rate hit a record low. Chicago saw a 23.7% drop. Denver's murder rate plummeted by 63%. And this is just before he even gets all the troops in. This is just with immigration. This is just with immigration enforcement. Meanwhile, the Democratic governors and mayors are stomping around like toddlers, denied dessert. They scream about federal overreach, but some, like Maryland's legislature, are already moving toward cooperation. The proposed Rachel Morin Act would require state agencies to work with ICE, repealing sanctuary policies and aligning Maryland with Trump's enforcement model. That's not just a policy shift, that's a political earthquake. And if Trump's personnel are invited, well, it gets even better. It goes from federal invasion to federal salvation. The optics are devastating for the left. Cities once drowning in crime, now breathing freely under Trump's watch, while Democrats rage from the sidelines. Law and order. It's a constitutional masterstroke, a political realignment, populist reawakening, and the Democrats are losing their grip on the cities, on the narrative, and on the voters they once took for granted. So what are they doing? They turn to socialism and against America, and they got their new star, Mom Donnie, the freeze the rent, $30 minimum wage, city-owned grocery stores, free buses, free childcare, free baby baskets, government challenges to utility pricing, tax hikes on corporation and the wealthy so they can chase out the money, that. It's a utopian fever dream dressed in populist rhetoric, and this is the reality. Price controls don't lower prices, they destroy markets. The National Review put it, lowering prices by government directive is like taking mercury out of a thermometer to lower the temperature of a room. It doesn't work. It breaks the system. And when the system breaks, the very people Mamdani claims to champion suffer most. Meanwhile, Trump's policies, whether on crime, immigration, deregulation, is delivering tangible results. Cities are safer. Businesses are returning. Voters are noticing. And the Democrats are stuck in a feedback loop of rage and denial. They scream about Trump's authoritarianism while their own candidates promise economic control that would make Hugo Chavez blush. The Democrats are panicking because they see the shift. The stars are burning out under the weight of their own ideology. Mamdani may win the primary, but his policies, if he gets in there, will trigger shortages, inflation, economic stagnation. The backlash will be swift and devastating. Here's the kicker. Trump doesn't need to convince the entire city. He just needs enough disillusioned voters to flip the margins. The writing is not just on the wall, it's etched in neon. The Democrats, they're too busy shouting to read it. And this is all a political gift to Donald J. Trump. Thanks for watching. United We United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America. We'll see you next time.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry.